Blake Lively has spent years dazzling the public with charm, style, and that confident glow so many admire on magazine covers. She radiates an image of effortless grace, a true Hollywood favorite who can do no wrong. Yet, rumors whisper of a carefully guarded reality, a world where personal grudges, massive lawsuits, and a looming battle for truth threaten to fracture her pristine image. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni, known to many as the epitome of kindness and sincerity, finds himself entangled in a confrontation he never saw coming. The quiet tension between them has erupted into an all-out legal maelstrom that could redefine both of their careers forever. Many fans watching from the sidelines have asked how the star-studded clash reached such dramatic heights. Were Lively's Legations genuine, or did something darker drive her to wage a campaign against Baldoni? Now that Baldoni's attorney has exposed potential manipulations behind the scenes, everything seems in question. People who once sang Lively's praises are re-examining every word she said, unsure what to believe. One thing is certain, this conflict isn't simply about hurt feelings, it's about power, influence, and a legal crisis that could cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And the more you look, the clearer it becomes neither side plans to back down. In the world of celebrity culture, some stars prefer an aura of mystery. Blake Lively, however, built her empire by being accessible, from talk shows to social media, presenting her life as a glamorous open book. Fans adored her candor. Industry insiders admired her network of powerful friends. She seemed unstoppable until she crossed paths with Justin Baldoni in a project that was, at first, the perfect marriage of star power. Baldoni had his own trajectory of success, rising to prominence for his heartfelt performances and philanthropic work. He was widely seen as a genuine, family-oriented man. Many believed he would never be involved in scandal or controversy. He was the good guy Hollywood needed. During those early days, if you told anyone these bright, affable celebrities would stand on opposite sides of a nasty legal war, they would have called it unimaginable. But that was the calm before the storm, a period when fans still thought Lively and Baldoni might become the next beloved Hollywood duo, not bitter opponents trapped in an explosive dispute. Lively's clout in Hollywood was massive. Film execs courted her with lucrative deals. Major publications fell over themselves to cover her every move. Baldoni, while less of an A-lister, had garnered the respect of producers and fans who praised his integrity when they first began collaborating. The vibe was all about synergy and the promise of a blockbuster. No one could predict that behind that polished facade, tensions were quietly brewing. As production got underway, subtle friction began to emerge. Insiders reported minor disagreements over creative direction. Normally, such conflicts remain private, a quick chat between teams, a handshake, and it's resolved. But something about this project felt different. Whispers started circulating that Lively was annoyed by Baldoni's collaborative style, finding it too intrusive on her star status. Others suggested Baldoni felt disrespected, believing that Lively's circle was undermining him at every turn. Soon, those ripples of tension turned into swirling speculation. Meetings that should have been mundane became charged with suspicion. Who was feeding stories to the press? Who was pulling the strings behind the scenes? Fans heard only faint hints, but those close to the situation sensed a bigger clash was looming. At first, neither Lively nor Baldoni addressed the rumors publicly. They each appeared at premieres and interviews, smiling and waving, hoping that, by ignoring the friction, it might disappear. But it didn't. Instead, both sides started arming themselves with attorneys, advisors, and carefully orchestrated media strategies. The hidden spark was more than just a personal rift, it was a ticking time bomb of professional disagreements, conflicting egos, and strategic backroom alliances. As the hush-hush negotiations fell apart, the looming feud between these two actors became impossible to hide. The conflict burst wide open when Lively accused Baldoni of crossing professional boundaries, implying that he had made her feel deeply uncomfortable on set. At first, her statements were vague, short references in interviews about certain people in Hollywood not respecting boundaries, but soon, the allegations sharpened. Select news outlets began publishing stories portraying Baldoni as a manipulator. A wave of outrage comments followed on social media, fueled by supportive voices from Lively's fan base. Public perception began turning against Baldoni, with critics labeling him problematic. Strangely, though, official complaints were nowhere to be found. Sony, the studio overseeing the project, reportedly never received an HR grievance from Lively or her team. That didn't matter to the tabloids. Sensational headlines overshadowed any demand for tangible evidence, fanning the flames of gossip. Overnight, Baldoni found himself painted as the villain in a carefully choreographed narrative. Despite the uproar, questions rose about the timing. Why did these accusations land right when negotiations for the film's next phase were underway? Why did certain journalists have entire exposes ready to publish at the exact moment that would inflict the greatest damage on Baldoni's reputation? Too many observers, the coincidences were too glaring to ignore. Meanwhile, Lively continued hinting at more hidden truths, warning that she was just beginning to speak out. It was a sobering moment where fans realized this was about far more than a simple personality clash. The stakes had escalated into career-threatening territory. Hollywood thrives on scandal, and the media machine that churns out stories can be ruthless. Every rumor, every cryptic statement, every unverified tip from an inside source only intensifies the drama. Major publications jumped in, some offering Lively a platform to share her perspective while downplaying Baldoni's side. Publicists scurried to control the narrative, and agencies pulled out every contact they had to shape how the story was told. Behind closed doors, there were claims that certain high-profile names offered behind-the-scenes support to Lively, providing statements that implicated Baldoni in various wrongdoings. Others alleged that big industry players simply feared Lively's status and dreaded becoming her next target. Meanwhile, Baldoni's attorney, Brian Fredman, refused to remain quiet. He suggested that not only were Lively's allegations misleading, but that she had weaponized media relationships to amplify her claims at precisely timed intervals. The swirl of social media only heightened the situation. People spent hours dissecting Lively's tweets, trying to interpret every subtweet, every veiled reference. Baldoni's supporters argued that the public was rushing to judgment. They questioned why legitimate publications seemed to run half-baked stories, based more on sensational rumor than solid fact. It was a masterclass in how a celebrity brand and the carefully crafted illusions around it could dominate the conversation, even when evidence remained murky at best. Then came the bombshell that flipped the script. Justin Baldoni wasn't just defending himself in court, he was launching a $400 million defamation countersuit. Outrageous, possibly, but the move sent a clear message. He refused to be cornered if Lively's team believed they could steamroll him. They were mistaken. Baldoni's countersuit alleged that Lively had orchestrated a smear campaign to undermine his reputation, relying on choreographed leaks, manipulated press releases, and strategic timing. With this countersuit, everything escalated. Gossip blogs had a field day dissecting the lawsuit's massive price tag, while mainstream outlets questioned whether Lively's legal team had overreached. Why did Baldoni need $400 million in damages? Was he planning to bankrupt Lively, or was this simply a public statement that he wouldn't quietly fade into scandal? Fredman claimed that the damaging effects on Baldoni's career were enormous. He had been dropped by agencies that chose to stay aligned with Lively, sponsorships vanished, and future roles were jeopardized. This, Fredman argued, was worth at least $400 million in lost opportunities, emotional stress, and reputational harm. Whether that number was too high hardly mattered. The main takeaway was that Baldoni believed he had a fighting chance, and he was calling Lively's bluff. As the legal skirmish intensified, startling details emerged about how Lively's team operated behind the scenes. Allegedly, her legal counsel demanded years of Baldoni's phone records, calling for every text, voicemail, or email that might paint him in a bad light. Their request was so broad that even the presiding judge pushed back, implying it was an overreach born of desperation. Meanwhile, Fredman zeroed in on Lively's private communications with media outlets, her personal PR team, and possibly even certain friends in the business. He wanted to show how each strategic leak was timed, how certain stories coincidentally surfaced at pivotal moments, and how the narrative was meticulously choreographed to tarnish Baldoni's image. Those who once rallied behind Lively started growing uneasy, fearing they could be dragged into a never-ending chain of subpoenas. Allegiances in Hollywood can change at the drop of a hat, and this high-profile feud was the perfect catalyst. Some big stars unfollowed Lively on social platforms, not wanting to be associated with potential dishonesty. Others quietly put distance between themselves and Baldoni, worried about any public impression they might condone wrongdoing. Each side claimed moral high ground, but insiders whispered that, behind the public statements, nearly everyone was waiting to see who would come out on top. Every dispute eventually reaches a moment of reckoning, and for these two celebrities, that moment is creeping closer. The possibility of a full trial looms, a scenario that could be catastrophic for either side. In a courtroom, carefully curated reputations don't hold weight, evidence does. And if Fredman successfully obtains the documents he insists exist, Lively might face a barrage of questions she's never had to answer. How do you explain never filing a formal HR complaint, yet publicly condemning someone as a menace? What is the story behind text messages comparing yourself to a fantasy queen who uses her dragons, famous friends to obliterate an opponent? Did an influential New York Times piece about the allegations really emerge from a months-long plan, coordinated with Lively's PR team? If these questions surface under oath, Lively will have no choice but to respond honestly or risk perjury. Baldoni also faces risks. He must account for every fragment of evidence and address each rumor about his conduct. If any contradictory fact emerges, he could undermine his own countersuit, losing credibility in the process. It's an extraordinarily delicate game. 1. Both sides are prepared to play to the bitter end. Observers expect fireworks if the judge decides to move forward with a high-profile trial, exposing the underbelly of Hollywood politics. For all to see, given the stakes, a settlement would seem a logical solution, yet the possibility remains uncertain. For Baldoni, any settlement must include a public clearing of his name. He's been adamant that he won't accept quiet deals or hush money. That puts Lively in a precarious position. If she agrees to exonerate him publicly, she could undermine everything she's claimed. But if she refuses, the case barrels toward trial. Public curiosity has soared. Every time new information leaks, another set of rumors springs up. Some speculate that certain big-name figures in Lively's circle, like other listers or powerful producers, are quietly urging her to end the fight before more damaging secrets come out. Others insist Lively is too far into retreat. The longer it drags on, the more fans wonder if they've been misled. Behind the scenes, there's talk about confidential negotiations. A settlement could save both sides from the brutal scrutiny of a televised trial. But would it truly serve justice, or just let an ugly conflict remain half-hidden? Meanwhile, social media watchers can't resist analyzing every cryptic post from Lively's acquaintances. Is that vague Instagram caption a hint at regret? Or are supporters simply tired of the scandal overshadowing every project they're involved in? The rumor mill keeps churning. Where this dispute ultimately lands is anyone's guess. But one reality stands firm. The days of Blake Lively's unblemished Hollywood persona may be fading. She once charmed audiences with a disarming smile and impeccable style, seemingly untouchable in her golden spotlight. Now, that spotlight reveals the harsh glare of a legal entanglement that threatens to unravel her carefully crafted image. Justin Baldoni's countersuit signals he's not content to let the narrative bury him. He's prepared to fight until the final verdict, hoping to prove that allegations can't replace hard evidence. For fans watching from afar, the saga offers a sobering glimpse at how power, media, and personal ambition collide in an industry built on illusions. Once, it was easy to assume one side must be wholly righteous and the other wholly corrupt. Today, it seems no one emerges unscathed when the stakes are this high and the cameras are always rolling. The next chapter could bring new revelations, out-of-court settlements, or perhaps the most sensational Hollywood trial in years. The question lingers: if the truth sees the light of day, will it be as jarring as the gossip promised? Or will it confirm that some stars will stop at nothing to preserve their success? Only time and a courtroom, if it comes to that, will unveil the full story. Until then, it remains a cautionary tale, reminding us that behind the glamour and headlines lie real people, complicated motives, and the staggering lengths celebrities might go to protect their legacy. Viewers must decide for themselves who's telling the truth and who's pulling the strings, because at the end of all the rumor mongering, legal wrangling, and strategic press leaks, only one certainty remains: in Hollywood, appearances can be deceiving, and the price of deception, once exposed, can be astronomically high.